Hello all, welcome to the art stream. It's currently, Saturday, February 14th. It's Valentine's Day. It's a lower key stream today because I kinda just don't feel like doing much today. I'm kinda just recovering from it's not really a convention, but a small little art show that I did a while ago. And right now I'm kind of just getting myself going here. That's what I'm currently doing right now, is kind of just working on some pixel art right now. I was gonna stream a little earlier, but I was also debating with myself about not streaming since it's so late. But I decided, let's at least do something lower key and kind of just embrace the chiller night. Hey Sean, how's it going? Welcome to the art stream. Hope you're doing well. Currently working on some cool cuts theme. Doing that Discord event tomorrow? No, not really. I am not really doing much of any Discord big events. At most, I'm probably just gonna do I'm mostly gonna do my general game meetup thing for any Discord anything, because I'm kind of just working at that. But other than that, I want to take my Sunday to kind of just veg out. Today I've been kind of just working on laundry. That's probably just the most accomplished thing that I've done today. Oh yeah, okay, you might stop by, that's good. Yeah, it'd be nice to have you, stop by for the meetup, because, it's kinda been, just low-key. I run the meetup these days, so that's been, I need to find a 3D artist to model the character. Okay. Yeah, that's gonna be something. I don't know if there are any new modelers that showed up at the meetup, other than, I guess, me sort of exploring modeling at the moment, but I've kind of just been working on this. So my modeling has been lower key in the process. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm working on this bow, but it feels a little too it's a little too high def. It's kind of interesting because I want to kind of just get this wider. Oh yeah, it is what it is with that. Been trying to just keep things low key. It's possible that I'm kind of burnt out, even though I never feel like I draw as much as I want to. I think what I've been up to at the moment is, I guess, maybe writing or maybe just reading. Reading's probably more accurate because I've been reading self-help books, I suppose, for dealing with, just feeling sad and all that stuff. So, yeah, just dealing with that. I'm wondering for a second. Let me open up Clip Studio for a second, because I feel like let me I just open up a fast document of Clip Studio for a minute. There's one thing that I'm just fumbling with. Archery's like this, which means the chest would actually like stretch like this. But then, if the archery's like this, he probably has a video that explains my psychology. I certainly found mine, I suppose. I mean, I have a real life therapist, so I'm trying to not completely depend on internet therapists and internet experts as much as I can. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I think with I guess these days with like as much of the just dumb discourse or whatever, I tend to be very, very skeptical of, I guess, getting a lot of my advice online, because it's very likely that you never know if there's people who either are kind of like making a grift, or you don't know if they're confidently saying the wrong information. I mean, I'm sure Dr. K is fine and stuff like that. I think I've seen a few videos from him. But it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like, so it's difficult to explain, but in short, I feel like if you're spending more of your time giving advice in public, I feel like you're doing this more for publicity than actually helping people. I don't know how I can explain it, but that's kind of just how I'm feeling when it comes to, I guess, online internet therapy and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, cool, you're explaining the thing. Are you explaining it because you're trying to help people, or you're trying to just get that clout to get those many views and stuff like that? Because I feel the same way about Mr. Beast, where it's kind of like, alright, you're charitable and stuff like that. Why are you making a video recording about how good you are instead of just doing good? And that kind of stuff kind of just, I'm now kind of just in this point where I'm kind of like, I cannot really stay I guess I'm having a bit of, it's good to have skepticism in general. And, there's something to be said about being a contrarian, having skepticism can be a bit too much. But it's also just one of those things where I've kind of like felt a bit burned about internet experts. And I think the straw that really broke the camel's back for me for that was a lot of the dumb takes with pirate software. And I mean, there's a lot of things with like pirate software where it's like, the stop doing games thing and all stuff like that, but kind of like becoming aware of the fact that he's still not finished a lot of his games starts to make me more skeptical about like game advice stuff in general. Like there was a recent video from India Game Clinic, which actually goes to this specific topic, where it talks about things like you're in that perpetual tutorial mode instead of actually just being confident enough to make your own decisions about this. And I need to figure out a way of like, how does a fat person draw a bow or something like that? But back to just talking about just indie game experts and kind of like feeling like you're putting a lot of your personal thinking towards other people instead of getting more confident about your own decisions and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Like, I tend to watch videos by Tim Kaine or Masahiro Sakurai because, they actually, they've made several games. But other than that, I try not to completely, or at least not like, I'm not like trying to completely go away from it, but I'm trying to like wean myself away from just constantly looking at tutorials all the time, which is ironic because I was talking about self-help books earlier. But I think the one chief thing that I'm constantly criticizing myself about is that I feel like I'm never like walking the walk with a lot of these things, especially with like game development. Like, I keep telling myself, yes, I'm a game developer. Meanwhile, I have shipped 0 games. Like, I'm an artist, sure, but game developer is literally like, I say a lot that I'm a game developer, but I don't make demos. I haven't worked in a team outside of maybe like tiny, unsuccessful game jams. And that's kind of just that with that. That same 0 games to my name outside of an academic product. Yeah, that's also another thing. I frequently feel this personal imposter syndrome when it comes to giving advice or like having like little pro tips and stuff like that, because one, I'm not really a pro, but I'm an artist who does art a lot and just figured out, oh hey, I figured out these like little tips on getting through art choices, where it's like, okay, I did a lot of conventions, so I kind of am a little aware of like how cons work. And a lot of this stuff is also, I hear, I dumbly listen to other podcasts, which is also another gaggle of stuff. But these podcasts, there's usually from, for me, I listen to like comics podcasts, like Comics Lab, and they talk about like, getting yourself to make webcomics and, make money from actually promoting your webcomics, marketing your webcomics, letting people know, hey, this is how you do your stuff here, and all that stuff. And stuff like that. And it has been, a lot of those tips have been helpful for my convention stuff. But a lot of it is also my own personal, like, School of Hard Knocks. I ask other artists at shows when I do that stuff. And I end up like learning things like that. So I mean, stuff like that's always good. But there's also just that sense of like, even though I do it, I still feel this sense of, because I'm not successful, I can't really claim that I'm so exceptional. And that's also another like little point that I kind of feel when it comes to a lot of I guess internet experts and stuff like that, where it's like, wow, for all this advice that you sure give away, I don't know how you're not following your own advice to make the most like exceptional thing. I feel the same way when it comes to writing advice YouTubers, where it's like, oh, you are giving writing advice for, oh, what should be in a novel. Meanwhile, I try clicking your link and you do not link to any novels. Same with like comic arts, where it's like, okay, they say, here's how you make a comic. But I click, they don't even have a web comic, not even a webtoon, not even like a print comic, nothing. So it's kind of like, why should I even bother like listening to you if you don't really have much to your name? And that kind of stuff. I mean, sure, it's ignorant, but it's kind of valid, where I'm kind of just feeling this sense of, I can't just, I'm just getting more and more, maybe just skeptical of just internet stuff these days. So I guess from the initial thing that I was just talking about when it comes to like, Dr. K and things like that, I'm sure he's fine. Hopefully he's not like giving away like stupid advice, like he's not doing a Jordan Peterson or nothing like that. But it's one of those things where it's like, I'm just too burned by stuff like that to really deal with that. Okay, this might work. Figuring out like how the body will look. This looks more correct with like the stretching arm. I think the one thing that I need to do is find a rig of like maybe like a fat person doing a what's that because there's this chest exercise where the the person will be using a elastic band to stretch their chest. Exercise. Elastic band exercises. Chest. If I can find that visual. Okay. Where is it? Alright. Chest press. Maybe that's it. Chest fly. Okay. Chest fly exercise. Okay. Yeah, the level of hustle in every imaginable pursuit has always surprised me. There's loads of indie dev videos that dish out common advice and pivot to an ad for their game. My outlook is devs aren't customers, so I can't imagine that even works. Oh yeah, I was feeling that same thing when I was looking at a game dev Reddit, and it actually kind of like broached a like a thought to me when I was like thinking about game dev Reddit, because it's like you have a lot of those. I think it's not just game dev Reddit, but like game dev forums, like game dev like circle communities and stuff like that, where it's like you have a bunch of game devs, they're showing off games, but they're not really showing it to, you know, gamers, like people who actually play games. Like they have, you know, you have those communities where they're making their, you know, they're showing off their games and stuff like that, but they're not really showing off their game to, you know, like streamers or yeah, what would be like someone who's besides a streamer or a let's player or something like that. Like someone who actually plays games in general. So it's like, yeah, that's kind of the actual customers who would, you know, actually purchase the game and have a sense of input. So that's kind of one of those things with like marketing that, yeah, I kind of like realize that, okay, I'm kind of like, I kind of have to just trust my own decision with a lot of this stuff, because otherwise this is just going to go nowhere in some ways. Alright. A like fat guy doing this. That man chest fly exercise. Because right now I need to just figure out where, like how the chest stretches. Guess this is probably how I'm gonna tackle it. It's like this. Honestly, I feel like I've gotten what I need with this. It's like, I mean, he should be fat, but maybe this arm would be underneath the shoulder. And that's also a tough thing about like these shorter proportions, is because Nad's essentially a ball, but he doesn't really have shoulders specifically. Because arguably he's like this, and then this is where, you know, the arm socket begins, and then that goes. But then the shoulder will be up here, the chest will be connected to this. Because I guess he has less moves, and well, actually no, he kind of has moves because he's a fat lad. But sort of like it's sort of like, you know, those power lifters who, they look fat, but it's more just they're bulky. This was a triumph. And kind of just looking at this anatomy just to eyeball it. I think this is how it can tackle how this pose should look. Alright. Who are dead, but there's no sense crying over every mistake. Alright. Because it's like one of those things where I am kind of fumbling around with this cutscene in like a million different ways. Because the initial storyboard of this cutscene looks more like this. Sort of an upper angle. But I think I had it so like the arrow is above the quiver, which should be more like below it. How's Black Mask going? So, I mean, my programmer's bug testing most of that stuff, really. That's kind of just the phase that he's in, is just, he's squishing bugs, really. That's the most that he's really mentioned, is like he's working on the boss fight for Nad himself, like, you know, the actual fight. And, you know, a lot of his kind of just, you know, figuring out how to get Nad actually working, walking around, pathfinding, stuff like that. And, you know, just bug testing the wacky stuff that happens when it comes to getting an enemy to just move around. You know what? I do like how his arm's up. So I think I'll probably just steal this.
To run, there's research to be done on the people who are still alive. And believe me, I am still alive.
Yeah, probably move the quiver a bit. And then nudge this arm up.
And when you're dead, I will be still alive. Still alive. Still alive.
Yeah, I'll probably just reshape the hand as I go. The tough thing about working on these bigger, like, pixel art cutscenes is that I am constantly, like, losing confidence in my initial instinct, I guess, where I had it right the first time, but I'm overthinking it all. I think that's kind of because, you know, when you're told about making concept art and, you know, just creative stuff in general, you're told, hey, your first idea is not going to be the perfect, you know, your first idea is not going to be the right one, you're going to have to edit. I mean, it's typical stuff, it's sensible advice. But sometimes, you know, there can be exceptions to that rules where because you were out of your own way, you're not thinking about, like, because you were out of your own way, you weren't just thinking about what wasn't possible, but you were just cranking out the idea. That's your first instinct, I suppose. Because it's your first knee-jerk instinct, you end up understanding the vibe better because I guess you can intuit it better. Like, I think it's one of those things where, you know, you want to, let's that, but the initial gut feeling ends up being right, but because I guess I've been trained, well, I'm sure other artists have been trained, but the initial, you know, tips of making art is, hey, you know, don't just go with the first thing, experiment with a second choice, stuff like that. And because sometimes your initial iteration is not the perfect one, or it's not the correct thing. Okay, I'll probably just nudge you up. Yeah, we'll just let you go here. Because sometimes you probably had it right the first time, and you end up just doubting yourself, and you end up refining the energy away from what you initially did. It's the same idea of like why game jam games, or better, you know, a better metaphor would be why the initial sketch that you make looks like it has more energy and interesting looks than the polished pieces, because you're kind of just cranking out that energy, and because you're trying to polish it, you end up wiping away that energy that you had in that initial idea sketch. Yeah, maintaining some objective perspective is hard. I've certainly made a lot of overwrought stuff. Oh yeah, and I feel like stuff like that's also the reason why doing game jams or prototypes, like paper prototypes, like the minimum viable product stuff, where you aren't making the big, like, super project, but just making a level to see if the gameplay is even fun enough to refine. So that kind of stuff is that kind of stuff can be a problem, because you end up just getting in your own way, or at least I end up getting in my own way. I keep saying you end up as if you're the one, but it's really me. I guess it's what, the royal we, where when I say you're feeling a certain feeling, what I really mean is I'm feeling a certain feeling. It's one of those wacky Englishisms that I guess I'm really upset about. Yeah, these days I try to slap content into a game quickly, and if it bugs me 2 months later, I revise it. Yeah, that's true. I think one thing that I should be doing is work with a larger pixel brush. The one thing that I guess stops me from using a larger pixel brush is that the freaking end pressure thing just does not work. I don't know why it just doesn't let me do it. Come on. No? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can try to just crank out a faster detailed thing if I just go into this with the larger brush. See, I'm already cranking out something much faster because I'm using the bigger brush. And then I do this. Though really this tail should be behind him. This should actually be a layer. Because this is supposed to be his tail quiver. You know, that's part of his character design. So, move you, create a new layer. That's Control-Shift-Q. Yeah, I never remember my own new layer. Control-Shift-Q. Yeah, I made this a new shortcut key, and it's supposed to be my solution to having shortcuts. It's just on the left side of my keyboard. Thing is, if I don't use these shortcuts often enough, I just end up forgetting what these shortcuts are actually supposed to be for. So it can be easy for me to kind of just forget a lot of these shortcuts. Okay. Now this will look fine. Could nudge you closer. Actually, that's a better silhouette. Then I could probably do like a black color here too. Also kind of just get his legs looking. Get his legs standing out here. Because another thing when it comes to making monochrome pixel art is you are really using those tones to your advantage. Like that's a big thing when it comes to doing this Game Boy palette, is it forces you to use the tones well. And that's one thing that I actually just really like about not just the Game Boy palette, but just black and white art. There's no colors to get away with, I guess, the vision. Well, not just the vision, but just the important stuff of, okay, this, you know, this area is right there. You're not distracted by anything else but just seeing just the starkness of everything. So that's kind of just me feeling a sense of I don't know, I just really, Kurosawa movies rule, man. Like, everyone should at least watch at least one. Maybe not Seven Samurai, that probably would take a long time, but like, what's a shorter one? How short is Yojimbo? Yojimbo feels fast. Because it's a simpler story, it's just a guy just messing around with two other dudes. Or maybe Rashomon. No, Rashomon isn't black and white. I can never remember my because I think the last Kurosawa movie I've actually seen is Hidden Fortress. Yeah. Okay, we'll just let that rock. Mad tail. Yeah, this might be a shorter stream because I guess I just started the stream just much later than I would normally. But right now I kind of just want to achieve this victory of just working and at least starting any stream. Because, again, I feel as if I've kind of bumbled a lot of stuff when it comes to this stream. Because I hadn't streamed since 2 weeks ago because I had to do a New York thing because a family member recently passed away, so I had to deal with those family issues there. So kind of just one of those things where it has been kind of just putting me in perspective. And I'm thinking about it, that might also be another reason why I'm kind of just feeling like bummed out. But I guess I'm trying not to like let this completely take me over. Yeah, thank you very much. And it has kind of got me in a bit of a existential thought when it comes to tackling this art. Same with I guess this convention that I recently went to. Well, it's not a convention, but it's more of a book fair for an elementary school. And I mean, it's pretty fun. It was nice to hang with the kids and kind of just show them that comics are cool. Thing is, it was a 2-day event, and for the first day I was selling my game store comic, and while some kids bought the comic, there were complaints from their parents, and they called the principal about the content of Instant Game Store, because if anyone's read Instant Game Store, which you should, it's Mastafran.com/Instant Game Store. Yeah, Instant Game Store essentially opens up with the sexual harassment of a woman, and that's where the problem kicks off with everything. That's where the fight starts. But thing is, I also put swearing in that book, and that's a big no-no in elementary school, so kind of couldn't sell that book. I also couldn't sell The Pizza Man because of the homeless man in his briefs, which that's understandable. I'm not going to argue against him with that. But essentially, the only other book that I had available was Shirley's Day, and it really highlighted that I hadn't made a new comic story in so long, and I'm coasting off the same 4 stories for the past, now it's going on 6 years, because I finished The Pizza Man in 2020, but I hadn't written anything new since. I've made drafts, I suppose, and obviously I've been writing Black Mass. Black Mass is the big, mind occupier with that kind of stuff. But in terms of finished stories, it's still not done. Black Mask, the Black Mass story, I have storyboards. They're actually complete storyboards from, written, or at least drawn from the script that I wrote. And even with that, I still feel like there's some stuff I want to cut. I sometimes wonder if this exchange goes too long, because it goes basically 2 pages, and it's if you think about it, page a minute, each page would be 2 minutes of dialogue. And I do, when it comes to game writing, I do try to factor in that, oh hey, someone's just going to A-press through this, so I'm trying to get that little context of, just do the storytelling and explain the stuff in as punctual a way the biggest thing that's kind of concerning me is this sequence here. You'll notice I separate these storyboards by intro sequence here, then we have the gameplay here, then you have another cutscene here, then gameplay here, and then a giant freaking chunk here, and then more gameplay. Like essentially, like this gameplay is the temple, and I could probably like do like a thing where I draw. Can I like edit this or? Oh, cool. And then is land. Escape foxes. I already know. Pre-boss. Or no, boss gameplay. Because the cutscene here is the boss. Wait, now. This would be pre-boss. Because this scene is, you know, going the actual, like, boss stuff, so. Yep. And I'll just move these pictures away. Crap. Yeah, we'll just let that rock here. I like merge you, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, like this sequence is a bit long, so either I thin this up some more. I think, yeah, I do need to look into this more to kind of just edit this down. But yeah, there's also just so much stuff that I feel as if, okay, is my lore absolutely perfect? Well, I don't know. You're gonna have to be confident about your own lawyer, you know? Yeah, you do relish the opportunity to remove lines of dialogue during the script revisions. Oh yeah, that's actually one thing that I've actually started like dreading less is removing sequences, because it's one of those things where you're initially just precious about those sequences because you worked hard to try and like figure out those lines. But then during the editing process, you realize, okay, you actually need to just pick and choose what's actually important instead of, you know, what you felt good at the time. Plus, you're probably, I think by the time you're in that editing process, you aren't, I guess you're taking enough of a step away from it that you're not as attached. So that's one thing that I've actually feel like I'm feeling better about, is just actually editing. It also helps that practically every script writing book that I read is like, most of the magic is in the editing. Like, you're just going to be editing all the stuff, and that's probably more important than the writing. Like, I'd say the real writing advice is put words on paper. Like, that's the actual writing advice. Like, a lot of writing advice that you would see online or on YouTube is really editing advice when you're thinking harder about it. Because sure, you gotta like figure out, okay, what's the character's motivations, what's you know how to make the pull out the setting and world building feel engaging. But that kind of stuff is stuff that you're gonna be doing by editing instead of actually like writing, because thinking about that stuff is probably slowing you down. because you're fretting so much about, oh, is this like tiny little thing perfect, when what you really need to be doing is putting the words down on the page and actually cranking out the draft. Like, we're going all the way back to the minimum viable product and the smallest iteration, stuff like that. That's the first draft of anything, is making that minimum viable product, because that's what the first draft would really just be, is that minimum viable product. And then you edit it down to something that will read more cohesive, or will show the emotion better, and all the other, writing wankery that everyone romanticizing. You're not gonna know like which words you're gonna need until you actually pick and choose the words. Yeah, it's like, thumbnail sketching, outlining, that kind of stuff. It's in the same ballpark. It's just, I guess, because you're seeking advice of like, okay, how do you make the characters memorable? Worry about making the characters memorable after you actually make the draft. Like, you don't even know if you're already writing the character memorable enough, and you're just not giving yourself enough credit. That's also another thing when it comes to actually, creating stuff and trusting your own decisions, is you're never gonna know if you're not terrible until you're actually doing it. You gotta actually, before I'm gonna shoot down an idea, I could at least make the idea exist. Because, you end up saying no to yourself. You don't actually bother exploring what the potential of the thing is, because you keep saying no to your instincts, essentially. And this wasn't working. I know what I was thinking. That simple line was more than enough. Yeah, that line's more than enough. But it really should be is this. But yeah, it's like one of those things where game development is whatever you need it to be, because you're the one making the game. If you can't be confident enough into making your actual decisions, like, why did you decide to become a developer in the first place if you weren't gonna put your foot on the ground and say, this is the game I want to make? And you're also probably stopping yourself from making decisions of like, doing like an innovative thing, because you're waiting for someone else to give you permission to have the good gameplay thing. You're more focused on validating whether it's good gameplay, and not just being confident enough in your own choice to be like, I like how this feels. I feel like this is fun to me. And then you could figure that out from other people who play and stuff like that, play testers, because you're more likely to kind of cheerlead for the game that you're making, like the gameplay thing that you're making, because then you're more likely to push the game towards explaining the game mechanic that's fun to you, and you're pushing towards explaining what's going to be fun about that game mechanic, instead of waiting for someone else to say, well, I mean, do you like this game mechanic? It's, a thing that I'm kind of just experimenting on, but I don't really know. It feels unconfident, and, that makes sense. I also, another thing, I actually found another article, like it was a Japanese article about like what Japanese developers look for in in their studios and stuff like that. And obviously it goes through things like the typical like Japanese art directors look for actual finished concepts and more than just character design, stuff like that. But another thing that's very underutilized with like game design, like scenario writers and things like that, is they look for people who are ready to write thousands of proposals and crank out a lot of writing and stuff like that. Like, that's also another thing when it comes to a lot of these ideas guys, because they make sense. A lot of ideas guys are like, oh, I have an idea for a game. All right, did you write it down? Did you write it down so that you could probably think about this more later? No? Well then, how can anyone help you with that? So, that's a little point that these the Japanese devs were kind of just talking about, is if you're not willing to just write proposals, and not just write proposals, but hundreds of proposals, and you're also not asking other people for game ideas, you should be the one actually coming up with the ideas and actually writing down those proposals, because otherwise you're not going to be helpful. Now that kind of, that makes plenty of sense, because if you want to make games and you don't have ideas for a game, then why the heck are you here? So that's kind of just one of those things where it kind of reminds me that you are your own, I guess, master of destiny in a way, where you gotta at least be confident in your own vibe, because otherwise you're just gonna let other people give you their vibe or try to instill their stuff on you when you probably don't even have that sensibility, and it could probably like make you miserable or make you seem very wishy-washy. So that sense of self-help makes sense. I mean, it's not self-help, but I guess that sense of just getting your ass to get more confident in your own work, that kind of thing's very important. So in terms of like art direction stuff, I mean, the core idea of Black Mass that I need to constantly remember is cool, not just raccoon adventure, but cool adventure guy walking through a fantasy world and treasure hunting for rare items because it would be funny to sell in a weird world. That's the hook that I need to constantly remember, is that this character lives in a unique world, and you show that unique world through your actions and through not just your action, but the character's actions. And that will be the thing that pitches what the world's about. That's my job in terms of, what I'm doing in terms of the art direction, stuff like that. In terms of story direction, the story's about a character who is poor and destitute, believing that he can get rich and solve his problems. That's the core that I need to remember, is the want is adventuring in a weird, odd world, and the need is realizing money is not the end-all be-all of happiness and stuff like that. And that kind of stuff, it's difficult to kind of just keep track of, because you're trying to, how did I do this? Okay, it's like that. you're trying to kind of just get yourself to just write the freaking draft. And also figuring out how that works in the stealth game. The most I've gotten is like, okay, it's a stealth platformer, so you make sure that it's about your ability to use your stealth skills in a 2D plane. Like, I usually think about the enemies factoring in that it's a platformer game, so I try not to think about how the enemy characters move. Like, you don't have things where the enemies will do like plane changes or do like extreme combos, because one, I don't know, like, I don't think I hadn't animated more sword moves than just the initial swing, so there's not going to be like crazy combat, because if it's a stealth game, you wouldn't be like going around like slicing everything. Like, you wouldn't be going around attacking all the time. Like, you know, I recently played Metal Gear, and while you can try to gun down people, it's very difficult because there's way more guys than you, and there's a lot of your weapons aren't like crazy effective. So you need to, one, conserve your ammo, and two, like, aiming top down in Metal Gear Solid is super hard. So that's also another factor with that. So, you know, you were building the characters with that in mind. So I try to figure out the enemy animations with that, and my programmer kind of gives me that carte blanche to make that call overall, because when I provide the animations, I'm also kind of suggesting how the gameplay goes. Like, when I submit him the animations, I also give him notes of like, okay, this is how I think the enemies should like act when it comes to a lot of the stealth stuff. And then he gives me some suggestions of like how the weasel, not just the weasel, like the weasel is just an example, but like if I submit like the weasel thing with a idea in mind, and then he suggests a thing, I let him go along with it so we can see how that works. The animation is combat design. That's why I want to do my game's animations. Oh yeah, that's another like big thing when it comes to combat design with that, because those animations do make a difference of how combat feels as well. Like, you could probably like cheat and make like, I mean, you can like make like popping animations. Like, that's not out of the blue, I don't think, where you just make little stiff blocking animations. But obviously, knowing how characters are going to move in the future is definitely going to just help push you in the right direction of what you need to do when it comes to getting combat right. And doing making combat scenarios is a whole beast in itself, because like, obviously you don't have access to a lot of like martial arts and things like that. Everything you could probably figure out is either other action games or other fighting games, and maybe you might go to a martial arts gym, and if you live in California, or heck, if you live in Japan, you'll have access to a motion actor gym or a motion actor studio, where you'll just have a lot of actors able to do a lot of their actions for both mocap and all that stuff. So you can work with stuff like that. Because what's it? I know yeah, essentially a lot of I guess there's a lot of game studios that will go to like mocap studios and motion actor studios, and they will do actions for for like animation references and film references and things like that. I follow a motion actor studio, and they just have a bunch of videos where that's just character movement. You'll have a person just act like a character is doing an idle animation, or you have a character who is swinging a specific weapon around, and they'll have it set up in 4 different views. Let me see if I can drop a link so so you can all see it. Yeah, it's Motion Actor Studio. I think that's what it is. Let's see, motion actor. Motion action. Motion Actor Inc. Okay. This'll work. So yes, let me drop a little link here. Yeah, Motion Actor Inc. Yeah, I totally want to make a dual iPhone motion capture setup though, mostly bank out cutscenes. I think you could probably work those with webcams too. I think you could probably save money if you got some webcams instead. Because I think I actually don't even know how much the camera resolution is going to make a difference when it comes to motion capture stuff. It probably does. So maybe you're probably right with you probably make a lot of sense when it comes to the actual stuff when it comes to that. But yeah, this YouTube channel is really good at kind of just showing off, hey, this how this thing works. And of course, you can do things like set the playback speed to be slower, so you can catch the frames as it goes. So you like put it slow motion, and it just looks. You can follow the movements, and you can like pick and choose what frames are important. Like you probably would pick this as a keyframe, or better yet, no, this. Oh, crap! This. One thing that kind of sucks about YouTube is that you can't like go frame by frame. I think it's Control left. Okay, this would be like an in-between. Yeah, he moves like a game character, and that's what this studio is amazing for, is you're seeing very exaggerated movements. So that's some fun stuff with motion actors specifically, because they're able to basically like act for specifically either video games. I think there's a few choreography studios that also do, they do choreography, action choreography. They work for Super Sentai and Kamen Rider and things like that and all that stuff. So you have stunt people with that kind of thing. I don't know if there's anything like that in America other than, stunt studios, but let's see. So I'm kind of like looking at my breast for Ned just to see if I need to just readjust his beard. Actually, I don't even know if it's a beard. His model kind of like flip-flops all over the place, because I have concept art where he has brown down here, like a full mass, but then I have a concept art where he doesn't have a full mass. It's like not there. So I kind of fumbled this a bit. I think one thing that I really need to remember to do is like make a real model sheet for these characters. But that is so much time that I gotta take in. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, there's a lot of models that I gotta. There's a lot of. Yeah, I probably need to make a model sheet. Maybe that's what I need to do is like take a break and make a proper model sheet. There, da, da. Okay. I try to just get this in a sense of well, he's moving and I have like a larger. It's here. Ah. Yeah. I could probably figure out how to like get him with bigger eyes. Like knock into this more. Yeah, good night. It's 10:30. I'm probably gonna head to bed anyway. Because yeah, this is probably a bit of work that I just need more sleep on. I might stream President's Day, because, you know, I have the day off then. I might just do that, actually just do an actual proper long stream on President's Day. Because I got the time. I got the time and the money. Well, not really the money, but I have work off that day. Push you forward. Push this in. Yeah, let's see if we can't just clarify a lot of Nad's sprites in general. Because what I probably need to do is like establish that his mask is around him like an actual Tanuki. It's more like a neck thing with this, with his mask. Because I do want to make Nad's mask distinct from Cole's mask. Because the one thing that I'm constantly worried about when it comes to doing like, you know, both like Tanuki characters and raccoon characters is make them look too similar. I actually kind of made a mistake of making Cole's ears black on the outside instead of white on the outside, because raccoons, they have ears that are white on the outside and black on the inside, but due to like color contrast, and because most other drawings of raccoons are like that, it ends up like being a problem. Yeah, this looks good. There's a better iteration. Yeah, something similar to this. It's just more you're seeing the belly like this. So it's kind of interesting because I'm also doing a similar belly to Tanuki statues. So he actually has a more of a bare belly like this, and that's more of a statue Tanuki thing. Like I don't think like all the other pictures of Tanukis don't really have this like belly color, I don't think. Well, kinda looks like this. Kinda has this lighter color. But yeah, it's not really, I think that's more for the Tanuki statues. And of course, I'm not going to show these statues not on Twitch, even though I probably could get away with doing it on Twitch. Probably doesn't even matter. I got brown bellies. It all works. It's all fine. Let you go. Now try to just relax with this. Yes, he's supposed to be Cole's rival in a way. Of course, if they look too similar, kind of like, I mean, I think that is kind of the point of rivals, that they look like good or evil versions of the character. So I mean, that's kind of the nature of like rival characters. It probably could just make it first the with a green iteration. Will this even work? I'm not even sure. Now I'm looking at this. This is just going the wrong direction. Because what this really should be, because where this really should be is more like this. Also, I could probably like, get away with like putting a eye thing here. I could get away with doing something like this. Sorta works. Still white. Yeah, that's a good eye. Okay. There's some tiny little bits of like, yeah, is this even gonna work in terms of cool ideas for drawing for pixel art stuff. I gotta remember that the black outline is a guideline to get me just getting things down. Because I gotta remember to use the other colors to have the lines fade away. Gotta do that. Make sure the lines fade away. That should work. Yeah, I'm also kind of like jumping my focus all over the place with this character. Because I think the initial idea was I just need to get polishing done. And here I am refining a million different things instead of working on polishing this artwork. Like, I still haven't even worked on the rest of the trees. This is supposed to be like a scrolling up animation. And it would be like the big reveal of what the boss looks like. I'll probably put like a little caption like, what's his name? And do stuff like that. Looking at this, I feel like that there's way too much fur here compared to here. Maybe I'm just over the line. Or maybe I'm just really tired. What time is it? 10:45. You know what? I think I'm just gonna wrap the stream because I'm really tired. I just want to go to sleep. I will be streaming President's Day, so I'll probably just let that go for now. But thanks everyone for stopping by this mini art stream. It's a little shorter than the usual ones, especially since I've been gone for too long. But I am trying to just get back on the wagon when it comes to these streams, so thanks again for just bearing with me as I'm kind of just figuring out these cutscenes. Anyway, I will see you all next time. Have a good night.